High blood pressure is one of the most common health problems on the planet. But what if one of its biggest triggers isn't about what you're eating or how much you exercise, but what's actually happening when you turn out the lights? Well, today we are diving deep into that hidden connection.
So let's just start with this one simple question, because it really gets to the heart of the mystery. What if the real battle for your blood pressure isn't happening during the day at all? What if it's actually being lost every single night while you're sound asleep?
All right, to really unravel this thing, we first have to get to know the main character in our story, the silent killer itself. It's an incredibly common and, a very dangerous condition we call hypertension.
Hypertension. It's the official medical term, but really it's simpler than it sounds. All it means is that the force of blood inside your arteries is it's consistently too high. Think of your body's entire circulatory system like the plumbing in a house. Hypertension is like having the water pressure cranked up way too high, all the time. And when you get your blood pressure taken, you get two numbers, right? The top number, systolic, that's the pressure when your heart is actively squeezing, pushing blood out. The bottom number, diastolic, is the pressure when your heart relaxes between beats. For your heart to stay healthy, it absolutely needs that moment of relaxation. It needs that downtime.
So let's talk numbers. What are we aiming for? Anything below 120/80, that's considered normal. But once your readings start creeping up and staying at 130/80 or higher, that's when you've crossed over into hypertension. And notice that word, persistently. This isn't about one stressful day or one bad reading. It's a constant state of high pressure.
And here's what makes it so incredibly dangerous. You usually feel completely fine. There are no symptoms, no warning signs, no alarms going off telling you something's wrong. But silently, behind the scenes, day in and day out, that relentless pressure is just slowly wearing down your arteries, your heart, and your other organs.
Okay, so now, let's bring in the hidden accomplice in this whole drama. A culprit that does all its dirty work under the cover of darkness, messing up what should be your body's time for rest and repair.
And here it is. This is the official profile of our mysterious partner in crime, obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA for short. And let's be super clear, this is not just loud snoring. This is a physical blockage of your airway that literally stops you from breathing over and over again through the night. And these are the clues it leaves behind. You see, the person with sleep apnea, they often have zero memory of gasping for air all night. But maybe their partner hears it, the loud snoring, the sudden silences, the choking sounds. The real evidence shows up the next day. You wake up with a headache, you feel completely wiped out, just exhausted, all signs that your body fought a battle all night long.
So, we have our silent killer, hypertension, and we have our nightly intruder, sleep apnea. Now let's connect the dots and see exactly how one of these things fuels the other.
This right here, this is the whole sequence of events. First, your airway collapses, so your oxygen levels plummet. Your brain senses this immediately and thinks, we're in danger, this is a life or death situation. So it hits the panic button. It floods your body with stress hormones like adrenaline, which makes your heart pound and your blood pressure shoot through the roof. And this doesn't happen just once or twice. For some people, this happens hundreds of times every single night.
The difference between a normal night's sleep and a night with sleep apnea is it's night and day. A healthy sleep is peaceful. Your whole system is at rest, it's repairing itself, and your blood pressure is naturally low. But a night with apnea, your body is at war. It spends hours in a state of emergency, constantly activating that fight or flight response, just fighting for oxygen.
So let's zoom out a bit. What's the cumulative damage? What happens when your body has to go through this intense battle night after night, year after year?
Well, it completely messes up your body's natural rhythm. Normally, your blood pressure is supposed to dip down at night by about 10 to 20%. It gives your whole cardiovascular system a much-needed break. But with sleep apnea, that dip just disappears. Your blood pressure stays high all night long, basically robbing your heart and arteries of that critical recovery time.
And the consequences of being a non-dipper, as it's called, are incredibly serious. When your cardiovascular system never gets a break, your risk for catastrophic events like a heart attack or a stroke goes way, way up. And it also puts a ton of strain on other organs, like your kidneys. All of this constant nightly stress can lead to a really stubborn problem called resistant hypertension. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's high blood pressure that just resists treatment. Doctors can throw multiple different medications at it, but the numbers just refuse to come down. And this, right here, is the smoking gun. When blood pressure just won't cooperate with medication, there is almost always a hidden reason why. And it turns out, in a huge number of these resistant cases, that hidden cause is untreated sleep apnea, which is actively fighting against the medications all night long.
So now that we've made the connection, now that we've identified the accomplice, let's talk about the solution. How do you stop these nightly attacks and finally break this dangerous cycle?
Well, the single most effective treatment is something called CPAP therapy. It stands for Continuous Positive Airway Pressure. It's basically a small, quiet machine that delivers a gentle stream of air through a mask while you sleep. And that little bit of air pressure acts like a splint or a cushion, just to keep your airway open so it can't collapse.
And by just keeping the airway open, CPAP therapy breaks that whole dangerous chain reaction we talked about. No airway collapse means no oxygen drop. No oxygen drop means no panic signal from the brain. The nightly stress just stops. This lets your body finally get the rest it needs, and in a lot of cases, it helps blood pressure finally come down.
So how do you know if this whole hidden connection might be affecting you? Here's a quick checklist. If you have high blood pressure that's really tough to control, even with medicine, and on top of that, you snore loudly or you feel tired all the time during the day, well, that's a massive red flag. It's a huge sign you should be talking to your doctor about sleep apnea.
So let's just quickly recap the big takeaways here. First, sleep apnea is so much more than snoring. It puts your heart through a major stress test every night. Second, all that stress is a direct cause of chronic high blood pressure, and it often makes it resistant to medication. But, and this is the most important part, treating the sleep apnea can break that cycle. It can give your body and your medications a fighting chance to finally get your blood pressure where it needs to be.
We'll end on this thought. You know, we all think of sleep as this time of peace and recovery. But for millions of people, it's actually a nightly battleground. And figuring out whether your sleep is a friend or a foe, that could be one of the most important things you ever do for your health.